A police sergeant lay bleeding in the snow, handcuffed to her own steering wheel. 3 wounded dogs whimpered beside her shot, bleeding, dying. The men who did this wore badges. They called themselves heroes, and they left her to freeze. But 20 miles north, a retired Navy SEAL heard something in the storm. His dog wouldn't stop barking. What he found in that ravine would expose the darkest secret in Alaska law enforcement. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from in the comments. Subscribe and stay until the end. This story will stay with you forever. The radio crackled one last time before it went dead. Maya, you there? Maya, respond. Sergeant Maya Reyes gripped the wheel tighter. The voice belonged to Danny Walsh, her partner, her friend. But Danny wasn't on patrol tonight. Danny was supposed to be safe at home. Danny, I told you not to call this frequency. Hale monitors everything. I know. Listen to me. Something's wrong. I just pulled the transport logs from last month. Maya, the Fairbanks run it, never went to Fairbanks. GPS shows it stopped at a private airfield for 6 hours. 6 hours, Maya. What takes 6 hours? Maya's heart pounded. She glanced in the rearview mirror at her 3 K9 partners. Ranger sat alert, his dark eyes watching her. Storm had her head on her paws, resting. Ghost stared out the window at the falling snow. I know about the airfield, Maya said quietly. I've known for 3 weeks. Silence on the other end. You knew Maya, why didn't you? Because I needed more. I needed everything. Bank transfers, shipping, manifests, names. I have it all now, Danny. It's on a drive. I'm taking it to Internal Affairs tomorrow morning. Where's the drive? Maya almost laughed. Somewhere Hale would never think to look. Maya, be careful. Hale's been asking about you. He pulled me aside yesterday, started asking questions. Where you go after shift, who you talk to. He knows something. Let him know. By tomorrow he'll be in handcuffs. The line went silent for a moment. Then Danny's voice came back, lower, scared. Maya, there's a car outside my house. It's been there for an hour. Black SUV. No plates. Maya's blood turned cold. Danny, listen to me. Get out, right now. Go to your sister's place in Juneau. Don't tell anyone. Don't. The line went dead. Danny? Danny. Nothing. Just static. Just the howling wind. Maya pressed the accelerator. The transport van picked up speed on the icy mountain road. She had to get to Danny. She had to headlights. 2 SUVs blocked the road ahead. Men in tactical gear stood beside them, rifles raised. Maya slammed the brakes. The van skidded, fishtailing on the ice. In the back, the dogs scrambled for balance, their kennels rattling. A figure stepped forward from between the vehicles. Tall, confident, wearing an Alaska State Police jacket. Captain Victor Hale. Maya's hands trembled on the wheel. She reached for her sidearm. I wouldn't do that, Sergeant. Hale's voice was calm, almost friendly. He walked toward the van like he was approaching a friend at a barbecue. Step out of the vehicle. Keep your hands where I can see them. Maya didn't move. Her mind raced. 3 dogs in the back. 1 sidearm. 6 armed men ahead. Captain, what is this? Hale smiled. That smile she had trusted for 8 years. That smile that had welcomed her into the K9 unit, mentored her, promoted her. This is a conversation, Maya. One we should have had weeks ago. He gestured to his men. They moved forward, surrounding the van. I'm going to ask you one question. Answer honestly, and we can all go home. Lie to me and this gets unpleasant. He leaned close to her window. Where is it? Maya stared at him. Where's what? Hale's smile faded. Don't. I don't know what you're... His fist smashed through the window. Glass exploded. Maya screamed. Hale's hand closed around her throat. The drive. The evidence you've been collecting. Where is it? In the back, Ranger erupted. The dog threw himself against his kennel, barking furiously. Storm and Ghost joined him, the van filling with their desperate noise. "Call off your dogs," Hale growled. "They're in kennels, they can't." He squeezed harder. Maya gasped for air. "I trained you, Maya. I made you. You were nothing before me. A beat cop with a shelter mutt. I gave you a career. I gave you purpose. And this is how you repay me." He released her throat. Maya coughed, tears streaming down her face. "Get her out!" Two men yanked open the door and dragged Maya into the snow. She hit the ground hard, the cold shocking her system. Someone kicked her in the ribs. She curled into herself, trying to protect her body. "Search the van. Tear it apart." Maya heard them ripping through the vehicle, seats being slashed, panels being torn away. The dogs were going insane, barking, howling, throwing themselves against their cages. "Nothing, sir. It's not here." Hale crouched beside Maya. He grabbed her hair and lifted her head. "Last chance. Where is it?" Maya spat blood in his face. Hale wiped it away calmly. Then he stood. "Shoot the dogs." "No!" Maya screamed, lunging forward. A boot caught her in the stomach. She collapsed, gasping. "Wait." Hale held up his hand. "Actually, no. Don't waste the ammunition. The storm will do it for us." He looked at Maya, and for the first time she saw what he really was. Not a mentor. Not a hero. A monster wearing a uniform. "You know what I love about Alaska, Maya, the cold? It's clean. It doesn't leave evidence. No bullet casings. No blood spatter. Just disappearance." He pulled her handcuffs from her belt. "You were unstable. Everyone knew it. The stress of the job finally broke you. You drove off the road in a blizzard. Tragic. Your dogs died with you. Very sad." He snapped the cuffs around her wrist, then attached the other end to the steering wheel. "But here's the thing about disappearances, Maya. They only work if there's nothing left to find." He nodded to his men. They returned to the van. Maya heard the dogs yelping, heard them being hurt. "Don't touch them, please." "We're not killing them," Hale said. "We're just making sure they can't follow." Gunshots. 3 of them. Maya screamed until her voice broke. "Legs only," Hale continued. "They'll bleed out slowly. The cold will finish it. Very humane, really." He leaned close to her ear. "The drive, Maya. One last chance. Tell me where it is, and I'll put them down quick. Painless. Tell me, and I'll do the same for you. A bullet's better than freezing. Trust me." Maya looked at him. Blood ran from her nose. Tears froze on her cheeks. "Go to hell." Hale stood. He brushed snow from his jacket. "Push the van over the edge. Make sure she goes with it." Hands grabbed Maya. She was thrown back inside. The van's engine roared as one of Hale's men put it in gear. "Goodbye, Maya. Give my regards to Danny when you see him." The van lurched forward. Maya screamed as it hit the guardrail, broke through, and launched into empty air. Time slowed. She saw the ravine rushing up to meet her. She heard her dogs crying out. She felt the impact, metal crushing glass, shattering the world, spinning, until up became down, and everything went dark. 20 miles north, Commander Ethan Cole was failing at peace. He sat in his grandfather's chair, staring at the fire, holding a worn leather collar. The name tag read Atlas. The date on the back was 3 months old. Shadow lay at his feet, watching him. The Belgian Malinois was 10 years old now, gray around the muzzle, slower than he used to be, but his eyes were still sharp. He knew something was wrong with his human. "I should have been faster." Ethan spoke to no one. to everyone. To the ghost of a dog who had died in his arms in a country whose name he couldn't say. "I should have seen the shooter. I should have," Shadow whined. He walked to Ethan's knee and laid his head there. "I know, boy. I know you miss him too." Atlas and Shadow had been litter mates, brothers from the same military breeding program. Atlas had gone with Ethan on every deployment. Shadow had been paired with another handler retired 3 years ago. When Ethan came home broken, Shadow had been waiting. The fire crackled. Outside, the blizzard howled. Ethan closed his eyes. His phone rang. He ignored it. It rang again. He looked at the screen. Unknown number. Washington area code. "Yeah. Commander Cole, this is Captain Morrison JSOC. We need to discuss your return to active duty. I'm on leave." "You've been on leave for 3 months. The psychologists say you're ready." "The psychologists don't know anything." A pause. "Ethan, we need you back. Your team needs you." "My team can handle themselves." "They can, but they're better with you, and you're worse without them. We both know that." Ethan stared at the fire. Atlas's collar was still in his hand. "I'll call you back." He hung up. Shadow had moved to the door. His ears were up, his body tense. That low growl that Ethan had learned to trust more than any intelligence report rumbled in his chest. "What is it?" The growl intensified. Shadow pawed at the door. "There's nothing out there, boy. Storm's too strong. Even the bears are hiding." Shadow barked. Sharp. Urgent. He never barked without reason. Ethan stood. He walked to the window, wiped the frost away. Nothing but white. The blizzard had reduced the world to a few feet of visibility. Shadow was at the door now, scratching, whining. All right. Ethan moved to his gear locker. 3 months of leave hadn't dulled his instincts. Thermal pants, insulated boots, shell jacket, medical kit on his belt, flashlight, thermal monocular. He hesitated at the gun safe. No. Whatever Shadow heard, it wasn't a threat. The dog's body language was wrong for that. This wasn't aggression. This was urgency, rescue mode. He opened the door. The storm tried to tear it from his hands. "Lead." Shadow didn't hesitate. He plunged into the snow and disappeared into the white wall. Ethan followed. The walk should have taken 20 minutes. It took 2 hours. Shadow moved with purpose, stopping every few yards to make sure Ethan was still behind him. The dog knew where he was going. Ethan had no choice but to trust him. The cold was a physical weight. Ethan had operated in conditions like this before Arctic survival training winter warfare exercises. But those had been controlled environments with extraction plans and support teams. This was just him, and his dog, and whatever Shadow had found. Then a shape in the white. Metal. Ethan raised his thermal monocular. Cold gray everywhere. But there a faint white signature. Heat. Life. He pushed forward. The van was upside down at the bottom of the ravine, half buried in a snowdrift. Alaska State Police markings on the side. K9 unit. "Hello? Anyone there?" No response. Ethan approached the driver's side. The window was shattered. Inside, a woman hung upside down, suspended by her seatbelt. Blood matted her hair. Her eyes were closed. He reached through the window and pressed 2 fingers to her neck. A pulse. Weak. But there. "Ma'am, can you hear me? My name is Ethan. I'm going to get you out." Nothing. He pulled out his knife and began cutting the seatbelt. As she fell, he caught her supporting her weight. Then he saw the handcuffs. Her left wrist was cuffed to the steering wheel column. Ethan's mind shifted. This wasn't an accident. This was deliberate. Someone had cuffed this woman to her own vehicle and pushed her into a ravine to die. He searched for the keys. Found them in her jacket pocket. His fingers were numb, barely functional, but he managed to unlock the cuffs. A sound from the back. Whimpering. Weak, desperate, Ethan pulled the woman free and laid her in the snow. Then he moved to the rear of the van. The cargo door was dented but functional. He wrenched it open. 3 dogs, large German shepherds still in their transport kennels. Blood everywhere. Each dog had been shot in the leg, deliberate wounds designed not to kill, but to disable, to ensure they couldn't escape and find help. Jesus Christ! The largest dog, a male with a black collar, lifted his head. His eyes met Ethan's. There was no aggression there. Only pain. Only a desperate, silent plea. "It's okay, boy. I've got you." Ethan opened the first kennel. The dog tried to stand, collapsed. His front right leg was shattered below the knee. "Easy, easy." Shadow appeared beside him. The old Malinois pushed his nose into the kennel, sniffing the wounded dog. Then he did something Ethan had never seen him do before. He lay down next to the injured shepherd, pressed his body against him, shared his warmth. Ethan opened the other 2 kennels. The second dog, female tan collar, had a wound through her rear leg. She could walk, barely. The third, smaller white collar was unconscious. Ethan checked his breathing. Shallow. He had a head wound. Possible brain damage. 4 lives. 1 chance. Ethan looked at the woman, at the 3 dogs, at the storm raging around them. "All right," he said to no one. "Let's move." He lifted the unconscious woman across his shoulders. Fireman's carry. The smallest dog he tucked inside his jacket against his chest. "Shadow, help them." Shadow understood. He moved to the 2 mobile dogs, positioning himself between them, guiding them forward. The female could walk. The male couldn't. Ethan grabbed a piece of the van's torn paneling, a makeshift sled. He loaded the wounded male onto it and began to drag. The journey back was impossible. Ethan's muscles screamed. The woman weighed nothing, but nothing felt like a mountain after an hour. The dogs struggled. Shadow never stopped working, nudging them forward, encouraging them when they wanted to quit. Twice, Ethan fell. Twice he got back up. The cabin appeared through the white wall like a promise. Ethan kicked open the door, stumbled inside, and collapsed. For a moment, he just breathed. Then he moved. The woman first. He laid her on the rug by the fire. Her breathing was shallow but steady. He wrapped her in every blanket he had. The dogs next. He created a nest of towels and old blankets near the wood stove. Warm, but not hot. Shadow immediately joined them, lying among the wounded animals, sharing his heat. Ethan knelt beside the largest dog. The gunshot wound was bad. Bone fragments. Heavy bleeding. "This is going to hurt, boy. I'm sorry." He retrieved his surgical kit. Forceps, antiseptic, sutures. The dog didn't struggle, didn't bite. He just looked at Ethan with those trusting brown eyes. Ethan worked for an hour. Removed the bullet fragments, cleaned the wound, stitched what he could, splinted the leg. The female dog was easier, through and through wound. Clean. He packed it and bandaged it. The third dog, the unconscious one, worried him most. Head trauma, possible swelling. All he could do was keep him warm and wait. 3 hours after he'd found them, Ethan sat back and looked at his patients. 4 lives. Still breathing. Shadow lay in the middle of the pile, his body a bridge between the wounded dogs. He lifted his head and looked at Ethan. "Good boy," Ethan said quietly. "Good boy." Then the woman moved. Her eyes fluttered open. Confusion. Fear. She tried to sit up, gasped at the pain, and reached for a weapon that wasn't there. "Easy." Ethan held up his hands. "You're safe. My name is Ethan Cole. You're in my cabin. I found you in the ravine." Her eyes were wild. She looked around the room, the fire, the dogs, this stranger. "My dogs, they're here. They're hurt, but they're alive." She saw them then. Shadow lying among them. Ranger Storm Ghost, all breathing, all bandaged, all watching her. A sob tore from her throat. "They shot them. They shot my dogs." "Who?" She looked at Ethan, and in her eyes he saw something he recognized. Betrayal. The worst kind. The kind that comes from someone you trusted. "My captain," she whispered. "Victor Hale." The name meant nothing to Ethan, but the look on her face told him everything. "He tried to kill me. He killed my partner. He's going to kill everyone who knows what he is." She grabbed his arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "He'll come back. When the storm clears, he'll come back. He has to make sure I'm dead. He has to find—" She stopped. Her hand went to her chest, then her pockets. Panic crossed her face. "The drive. What drive?" She ignored him. She pushed herself up, crawled toward the dogs. Her hands were shaking as she reached for Ghost, the smallest dog, the unconscious one. "It's still there," she breathed. "Oh, thank God it's still there." She unclipped the dog's collar. Her fingers found a hidden seam. She pulled it open. A micro SD card smaller than a fingernail fell into her palm. "This," she said, holding it up to the firelight. "This is why he tried to kill us. This is everything. His whole operation, every shipment, every payoff, every name." Ethan stared at the tiny chip. Then at the woman. Then at the 3 wounded dogs who had carried it through a death trap without anyone knowing. "He didn't find it," she said, almost laughing. "He tore apart my van. He searched my body. He shot my dogs. But he never thought to check a collar." She looked at Ethan. Her eyes were clearer now, harder. "My name is Maya Reyes, Sergeant Alaska State Police K9 Unit, and I need your help." Outside, the storm screamed. Inside, a new alliance was forming. Ethan Cole looked at the woman, at her dogs, at the tiny chip that had nearly cost all of them their lives. He thought of Atlas, of the collar hanging on his wall, of all the missions he'd run to bring down men who thought they were untouchable. He thought of Danny Walsh, whoever he was dying because he'd tried to do the right thing. He thought of Victor Hale, sleeping soundly tonight, believing he'd won. "All right, Sergeant Reyes," Ethan said. "Tell me everything." Maya's hands wouldn't stop shaking. She held the micro SD card like it was a grenade. In many ways it was. One tiny chip. Enough explosive truth to blow apart the entire Alaska State Police. "Start from the beginning," Ethan said. He handed her a cup of hot water. "Who is Victor Hale?" Maya laughed. The sound was bitter broken. "Victor Hale is a hero. That's what everyone says. That's what I believed for 8 years." She took a sip. The warmth spread through her chest, but it couldn't touch the cold inside. "He recruited me out of the academy. I was nobody. A beat cop with a rescue dog I'd trained myself. Hale saw something in me. He said I had potential. He made me his protege. And now he wants you dead. Now he wants me erased." Maya looked at the card. Because I found out what he really is. Ethan waited. He'd learned long ago that silence drew out more truth than questions. It started 3 months ago. A transport run to Fairbanks. Routine. I wasn't even supposed to be on it, but Rodriguez called in sick. I took his shift. She closed her eyes. The memory was still sharp. We stopped at a checkpoint, middle of nowhere. I thought it was a bathroom break, but then I saw them unloading crates from our van. Crates that weren't in our manifest. Drugs. Worse. Weapons. Military grade. The kind you can't buy, only steal. Maya opened her eyes. I didn't say anything. I pretended I didn't see. I went back to the van and waited. Smart. Scared. I was scared. She shook her head. I told myself I was wrong. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Victor Hale was my mentor. He couldn't be... Her voice cracked. But you knew. I knew. Deep down I knew. Maya set down the cup. So I started digging. Quietly. Transport logs, GPS data, financial records. Every piece I found led to another. It was like pulling a thread and watching the whole uniform unravel. How big is his operation? Massive. He's been running it for 12 years. Drugs, weapons, cash, all moving through K9 transport routes. Nobody questions a police van. Nobody searches a K9 unit. It's the perfect cover. Ethan processed this. 12 years. Hundreds of shipments. Millions of dollars. Who else is involved? I don't know all of them, but the drive has names. At least 24 officers, a city councilman, someone in the Port Authority. Maya's jaw tightened. And my partner, Danny Walsh. Ethan remembered the name, the panicked voice on the radio. You said Hale killed him. Danny wasn't part of it. He was like me, he stumbled onto something wrong. He came to me a week ago, terrified. He'd seen discrepancies in the armory logs. Weapons signed out that never came back. He wanted to report it. Did he? I told him to wait. I told him I was building a case. I told him to trust me. Maya's voice broke completely. I told him to be careful. She covered her face with her hands. The last thing Danny said to me was that there was a car outside his house. Black SUV, no plates. Then the line went dead. Ethan let her cry. He didn't offer comfort. He didn't tell her it wasn't her fault. Those words meant nothing, and they both knew it. After a moment, Maya wiped her eyes. Danny's dead because of me. Danny's dead because of Hale. Same thing. No. Ethan's voice was firm. Hale pulled the trigger. Hale made the choice. You were trying to stop him. That's not the same thing. Maya looked at him. Really looked. She saw the weight in his eyes, the shadows that lived there. You've lost someone. It wasn't a question. Ethan didn't answer. He stood, walked to the wall, and took down a worn leather collar. Atlas, my K9. 3 months ago in a place I can't name. We were extracting a high-value target. Ambush. Shooter in the building we'd just cleared. He ran his thumb over the name tag. Atlas saw him before I did. He took the bullets meant for me. I held him while he died. Maya stared at the collar, at the man holding it. I'm sorry. Don't be. He did his job. He saved my life. Ethan hung the collar back on the wall. The guilt doesn't go away. It never goes away. But you learn to carry it. You learn to use it. He turned back to her. Danny died trying to do the right thing. Honor that. Finish what he started. Maya looked at the micro SD card in her palm, then at her 3 dogs still huddled together with Shadow. Ranger had lifted his head watching her. His eyes were full of trust. She closed her fist around the drive. Hale doesn't know it's missing. He thinks it was in the van destroyed in the crash. He thinks I'm dead. That's our advantage. When the storm clears, he'll search the wreck. He'll realize I survived. He'll realize the drive is gone. Then he'll come looking. Maya nodded. He has to. I'm the only witness. The drive is the only evidence. Without both, he's untouchable. How long do we have? Days, maybe less. The storm's supposed to break tomorrow afternoon. Ethan moved to his gear locker. He opened it, revealing rows of weapons, ammunition, tactical equipment. Can you fight? I'm a cop. That's not what I asked. He pulled out a Glock 19, checked the magazine. Can you fight? Not arrest. Not detain. Fight. Kill if you have to. Maya hesitated. She'd fired her weapon in training. She'd never shot a person. Hale's not coming to arrest you, Ethan continued. He's coming to execute you, and me, and the dogs, everyone who knows what he is. He held out the Glock. Can you do what needs to be done? Maya took the weapon. It felt heavier than it should. Teach me. Ethan nodded. Get some rest. We start in 4 hours. Maya didn't think she could sleep, but the moment she closed her eyes, exhaustion dragged her under. She dreamed of Danny. He was standing in the snow, blood running down his face. He kept asking her why she didn't save him. She had no answer. She woke to the sound of barking. Not aggressive barking. Excited barking. Happy. She sat up, wincing at the pain in her ribs. The fire had burned low. Gray light filtered through the windows morning, though the storm still raged. Shadow was on his feet, tail wagging, looking at the pile of wounded dogs. And there, in the middle of them, Ghost was standing. Ghost! Maya scrambled across the floor, ignoring the pain. The small shepherd turned to her, his tail wagging weakly. His eyes were clear. Alert. Oh, God. Oh, baby. She wrapped her arms around him, burying her face in his fur. He licked her cheek. The concussion's clearing, Ethan said. He was standing by the stove cooking something that smelled like oatmeal. He woke up about an hour ago. Started walking 10 minutes later. He's okay. He's tough. All 3 of them are. Ethan gestured to the other dogs. Ranger was still lying down, but his tail thumped when Maya looked at him. Storm had moved to the edge of the nest, trying to stand. How are their wounds? Ranger's leg is bad. He won't run for weeks, maybe months. Storm's through and through is clean. She'll be mobile in a few days. Ghost just needed rest. Maya looked at her dogs. 12 hours ago, they'd been dying. Now they were fighting back. They're K9s, she said quietly. They don't know how to quit. Neither do we. Ethan handed her a bowl of oatmeal. Eat. Then we train. The next 6 hours were brutal. Ethan didn't train like a police instructor. He trained like a man who had killed people with his bare hands and expected her to do the same. Your training is about control, he said, circling her. Mine is about destruction. Hale isn't coming to control you. He's coming to destroy you. You need to think the same way. He attacked. Fast. No warning. Maya blocked instinctively, tried to throw a punch. He caught her wrist, spun her, and had her in a chokehold before she could react. Dead. He released her. She stumbled forward, gasping. Again! They went again, and again, and again. He taught her how to use leverage instead of strength, how to strike at nerve clusters, how to turn everyday objects into weapons, how to fight dirty because clean fights got you killed. Your gun holds 17 rounds, he said, handing her the Glock. Hale will bring at least 6 men, probably more. You can't outshoot them. You have to outsmart them. How? Movement, cover, distraction. He gestured to the dogs. And them. Maya looked at Shadow, who sat watching the training with intense focus. The dogs, they're trained. Maybe not for combat, but for protection, attack commands. All three know basic protection work. Ghost was going to be a patrol dog before... She stopped. Before Hale shut down my training program. Why? Said the budget didn't support it. Now I know the real reason. He didn't want K9s trained to catch criminals. He wanted transport dogs. Obedient, passive, easy to control. Ethan nodded. Your dogs are an asset. Use them. He called Shadow over. The old Malinois came instantly sitting at attention. Watch. Ethan gave a hand signal, a closed fist followed by a pointing finger. Shadow immediately dropped low and moved silently to the indicated position, disappearing into the shadow beneath the bed. Tactical positioning. I taught him that for operations. The signal for attack is... He showed her another gesture. Shadow exploded from his hiding spot, grabbed a pillow from the bed, and shook it violently. Good boy. Ethan rubbed his head. Your dogs can learn. Fast. For the next 2 hours, Maya worked with her dogs. Storm, despite her wound, was eager. She picked up the silent movement commands quickly. Ghost was even faster. His intelligence had always been his strongest trait. Even Ranger, unable to walk, practiced alert signals from his position. They're good, Ethan admitted. Really good. They're the best. Maya knelt beside Ranger, scratching his ears. That's why Hale wanted them dead. He knew what they could do. He underestimated them. He underestimated all of us. The storm began to weaken around noon. The howling wind dropped to a moan. The horizontal snow shifted to a gentle fall. Ethan checked his satellite equipment. Weather service says it'll clear by tonight, maybe tomorrow morning. That's when he'll move. That's when we need to be ready. He powered up his tablet, connecting to the satellite phone's data link. The connection was slow but stable. Let's see what he's telling the world. The news site loaded. Maya's heart stopped. The headline filled the screen. Alaska State Police. Seek officer in partner's disappearance. Below it, a photo. Her photo. Her official department portrait. No. Ethan clicked the article and read aloud. Anchorage police are searching for Sergeant Maya Reyes, a K9 handler who failed to report for duty following the disappearance of her partner, Officer Danny Walsh. Sergeant Reyes was last seen by Captain Victor Hale, who expressed concern about her mental state. Mental state. According to Captain Hale, Sergeant Reyes had been exhibiting signs of extreme stress and paranoid behavior in recent weeks. We just want to find her, Hale stated at a press conference this morning. We want to bring her home safely and get to the bottom of what happened to Officer Walsh. Maya couldn't breathe. He's framing me. He's framing me for Danny's murder. Ethan scrolled down. There was video, a press conference. He clicked it. Victor Hale appeared on screen. He stood in front of a bank of microphones, snow falling on his shoulders. His face was the picture of concerned authority. Maya Reyes is a good officer. Hale said, his voice heavy with false emotion. But she's been under tremendous strain. We believe she may have suffered a psychological break. Officer Walsh may have tried to help her, and something went tragically wrong. Maya watched the man who had beaten her, shot her dogs, and left her to die. She watched him play the grieving leader. Our priority is finding both officers. We're conducting a full search of the Denali region. We won't stop until we bring them home. A reporter asked, "Is Sergeant Reyes considered dangerous?" Hale paused. The hesitation was perfectly calibrated. We hope not. but we're advising anyone who sees her to contact authorities immediately and not approach. She may be armed and confused. The video ended. Maya's hands were shaking again, but not from cold this time. From rage. "He's given himself permission to kill me," she said. "Armed and confused. Psychological break. If they find me and I resist, they're justified in using lethal force. If they find me dead, I'm the crazy cop who killed my partner and couldn't live with it." "He's not just covering his tracks," Ethan said. "He's building a narrative, one where he's the hero and you're the villain." Danny's body. They'll find Danny's body eventually. The evidence will clear me. Will it? Who controls the investigation? Who processes the evidence? Maya closed her eyes. Hale. Hale controlled everything. He'll destroy anything that doesn't fit his story. That drive is the only truth that can survive. Ethan closed the tablet. Which is why he'll burn down the world to find it. Maya looked at the micro SD card, still in her pocket. We need to get it to someone he can't touch. I have contacts, NCIS. They have jurisdiction over military personnel, and they hate local corruption. But I can't reach them until the storm clears. If you can reach them, so can Hale. He'll be monitoring everything. Not my communications. Ethan gestured to the satellite phone. Military encryption. Even the NSA would have trouble cracking it. A spark of hope flared in Maya's chest. You really think they'll help? I know they will. Ethan's voice was certain. I've worked with them before. They're not afraid of going after powerful people. And a corrupt police captain running a 12-year trafficking operation, they'll mobilize a full tactical response. When can you call? When the satellite window opens. About 4 hours. 4 hours. Maya looked out the window at the weakening storm. He'll move fast, she said. The moment the weather clears, he'll be in the air. Helicopters, snowmobiles, search teams, all of them looking for me. Looking for a body in the wreck. He doesn't know you're here. He will. When he doesn't find me in the van, he'll search every structure within 50 miles. Ethan smiled. It was a cold smile, a warrior's smile. Then we'd better be ready to greet him. He opened the gun safe. Maya had seen police armories before. This was something else entirely. Rifles, pistols, shotguns, grenades, night vision, body armor, enough firepower for a small war. You're not just a retired SEAL, she said. I'm on leave, not retired. Ethan pulled out an HK-416 rifle, checked the action. This location is a contingency site, off the books. When operators need to disappear, they come here. Disappear from what? From everything. He handed her a tactical vest. Put this on. Get familiar with the weight. Maya took the vest. It was heavier than she expected. What's the plan? Hale thinks you're dead. We use that. When he comes looking, he'll expect to find a corpse, not a fortress. What Ethan began laying out equipment on the table. I'll make contact with NCIS. They'll mobilize a quick reaction force from Joint Base Elmendorf. Should take them 6 to 8 hours to get here once the storm breaks. Can we hold for 6 to 8 hours? We can hold long enough. Maya strapped on the vest. The weight settled on her shoulders. I was supposed to be the one protecting people, she said quietly. That was my job, serve and protect. You still are? Ethan looked at her dogs, then at her. You're protecting the truth. That's more important than anything else right now. Storm limped over to Maya's side. The dog looked up at her tail, wagging despite the pain. Maya knelt and wrapped her arms around her partner. I won't let him win, she whispered into Storm's fur. I promise. The dog licked her face. Ethan watched the exchange. For a moment, his expression softened. There's something you should know, he said. About why I came to Alaska. Why I was in that cabin alone. Maya looked up. Atlas didn't just die in my arms. He died because I made a mistake. I missed a threat. I got complacent, and my partner paid the price. He glanced at Shadow, who had returned to his spot beside the wounded dogs. I came here to disappear, to punish myself, to rot in the snow until I felt like I'd suffered enough. He met Maya's eyes. Shadow wouldn't let me. He kept dragging me out of the cabin, making me walk, making me live. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Dogs don't understand guilt. They only understand forward. Maya looked at her 3 K9s. Ranger with his shattered leg, Storm with her bandaged wound, Ghost with his concussion. They should be broken. They should be traumatized. Instead, they were watching her, waiting for the next command. Ready to fight. Forward, she repeated. Forward, Ethan confirmed. Victor Hale doesn't know it yet, but he made the biggest mistake of his life. He didn't kill you. He gave you a reason to destroy him. Maya stood. She picked up the Glock, checked the magazine, chambered around. Then let's destroy him. Outside, the storm was dying. But inside that cabin, something more dangerous was being born. A woman who had nothing left to lose. A warrior who had found something worth fighting for. 4 dogs who would die before they let anyone hurt their pack. And a tiny chip that held the power to burn an empire to the ground. Victor Hale was coming. He had no idea what was waiting for him. The satellite phone connected on the 3rd attempt. Jensen here? Ethan gripped the phone tighter. Sarah, it's Cole. Winterfox Protocol. Silence on the other end. Then Sarah Jensen's voice shifted from professional to tactical. Go. I have a priority 1 witness, Alaska State Police Sergeant. She has evidence of a massive trafficking operation run by her commanding officer, Captain Victor Hale, APD. How massive? 12 years. Drugs, weapons, cash. Dozens of officers involved. A city councilman. Someone in the Port Authority. Jesus Christ. It gets worse. Hale attempted to execute her. Shot her dogs. Left her to freeze. He's now framing her for her partner's murder and leading the search himself. Sarah processed this. Where are you? Contingency Site 7. Coordinates to follow. Hale has located the general area. He'll move when the weather clears. That's in 6 hours, maybe less. I know. I need a QRF. Heavy. This man has tactical resources and he's not coming to arrest anyone. Commander, this is a jurisdictional nightmare. Alaska State Police Civilian Witness Federal. Sarah. Ethan's voice cut through. He murdered a cop. He's about to murder another one. And he's using state resources to cover it up. NCIS has jurisdiction over corruption involving federal programs, and I guarantee his operation has touched federal money somewhere. A pause. You're right. The Port Authority alone gives us standing. Sarah's voice hardened. I'll get authorization. We'll mobilize from Elmendorf, 6 to 8 hours minimum once we launch. Make it faster. I'll try. Hold the line, Commander. Help is coming. The connection ended. Ethan looked at Maya. They're coming. 6 to 8 hours. Minimum. Maya checked her Glock. 17 rounds. 3 spare magazines. 51 bullets against an army. We can do this, Ethan almost smiled. We don't have a choice. Shadow's head snapped up. The old Malinois had been resting beside the wounded dogs, but now every muscle in his body tensed. His ears rotated toward the window, a low growl built in his chest. Company, Ethan said. He killed the lights. The cabin plunged into darkness lit only by the dying fire. Maya moved to the window. She wiped frost from the glass and peered out. Nothing. Just the gray light of late afternoon and the endless white. Then she heard it. Thop, thop, Thop. Helicopter. He's flying in marginal weather, Ethan said. He's desperate. The sound grew louder. A searchlight pierced the clouds, sweeping across the snow. Get the dogs to the cellar. Maya hesitated. Now. She moved. Storm followed on 3 legs. Ghost stayed close to her side. Only Ranger couldn't move. Ethan lifted him carefully and carried him to the trap door. Shadow, down. The Malinois dropped into the darkness without hesitation. You too, Ethan said to Maya. I'm not hiding. You're not hiding. You're positioning. He pointed down. That cellar has a reinforced hatch. If things go wrong up here, you get the dogs out through the emergency tunnel and you run. You get that evidence to NCIS. That's the mission. What about you? I'll buy you time. Ethan, that evidence is more important than me. More important than both of us. His eyes met hers. Promise me. Maya looked at him. At this stranger who had saved her life, trained her, given her hope. I promise. She climbed down. The trapdoor closed above her. In the darkness, she felt her dogs press against her. Storm's warm breath on her hand. Ghost's nose against her knee. Ranger's weak tail thump. And Shadow, the veteran, positioning himself at the base of the ladder, ready to defend. Above, she heard Ethan moving, positioning, preparing. The helicopter sound faded. It had landed somewhere nearby. Then snowmobiles, multiple engines. Getting closer. Maya's hand found her Glock. She pressed her back against the cold, earthen wall and waited. Ethan watched through the thermal monocular. 6 snowmobiles. 8 men. All armed. Victor Hale was in the center wearing tactical gear that looked wrong on him. He was a politician, not a warrior. But the men around him were different. Mercenaries. Private contractors. Men who killed for money. This wasn't a police operation. This was an assassination squad. Hale raised a bullhorn. This is Captain Victor Hale, Alaska State Police. We have a warrant for this structure. Anyone inside, come out with your hands raised. Ethan didn't move. We know someone's in there. Smoke from the chimney. Tracks in the snow. Make this easy on yourself. Still nothing. Hale lowered the bullhorn. He turned to the large, bearded man beside him. Gage, take 2 men around back. Cross, you're with me. Everyone else covering positions. The team split. Professional. Coordinated. Ethan smiled grimly. They were good. But he'd trained better. He moved to the back window, staying low. 2 men were approaching from the rear, using the woodshed for cover. He could take them now. Easy shots, but that would give away his position. He needed to wait. The front door shuddered. Last chance, Hale called. Come out or we come in. Ethan raised his rifle, centered the sight on the door. Breach it. A massive impact. The reinforced door held. Another impact. The frame cracked. 3rd impact. The door flew open. 2 men rushed in, rifles up, flashlights cutting the darkness. Ethan didn't shoot. He moved. The first man never saw him. Ethan came from the shadow like death itself, driving an elbow into the man's throat. The rifle clattered to the floor. Before the second man could turn, Ethan had grabbed his own rifle, reversed it, and used the stock as a club. Both men dropped in under 3 seconds. Contact, we have contact. Gunfire erupted. Bullets tore through the windows, splintering wood, shattering glass. Ethan dove behind the stone fireplace, the only real cover in the room. He's armed. Take him down. More bullets. The cabin was being torn apart. Ethan waited for a pause. When it came, he rolled, raised his rifle, and fired twice through the broken window. A scream outside. One down. He rolled again as return fire chewed up the floor where he'd been. "Gauge back, entrance now." The rear door exploded inward. 2 more men poured through. Ethan spun, fired, missed. The men were fast spreading out, using the furniture for cover. He was pinned, front and back, outnumbered. This was going wrong. In the cellar, Maya heard everything. The door breaking, the gunfire, the screams. She heard Ethan fighting for his life above her head. Storm whined. Ghost pressed closer. "Stay," Maya whispered. "Stay quiet." But she couldn't stay. Not while Ethan died for her. She looked at Shadow. The old Malinois was staring at the trapdoor, every muscle coiled, waiting for a command. "Shadow." The dog looked at her. Maya didn't know the tactical signals, but she knew dogs. She knew what they needed. "Protect." Shadow understood. He launched himself up the ladder, hit the trap door with his shoulder, and burst into the chaos above. Maya heard snarling, screaming, a man's voice crying out in terror. She climbed after him. The cabin was a war zone. Ethan was behind the fireplace, bleeding from a gash on his arm. 2 men lay unconscious near the front door. But 2 more were advancing from the back, rifles raised. Shadow had one of them by the arm. The man was screaming, trying to shake off the dog. His partner turned, aiming at the Malinois. "No!" Maya fired. Her first shot went wide. Her second hit the man in the shoulder. He spun, dropped. Shadow released his target and went for the wounded man, finishing the work. Maya down. She dove as bullets ripped through the air where she'd been standing. She hit the floor hard, rolled, came up behind an overturned table. Ethan was moving, using the distraction to reposition. He took down another man with 2 precise shots. How many left? At least 3+ hail. More gunfire from outside. They were surrounded. Then a new sound. Barking. Not Shadow. Storm. The wounded shepherd had climbed out of the cellar. She could barely walk, but she was moving, following Maya's voice. Ghost was right behind her. "No, get back!" But the dogs didn't listen. They were K9s. Their handler was in danger. Nothing else mattered. Storm limped to Maya's side and turned to face the door, growling despite her pain. Ghost positioned himself by the window, alert, watching. Even Ranger was trying to drag himself up the ladder, his shattered leg trailing behind him. "The dogs are out!" someone shouted outside. "The dogs are—" Gage came through the back door, rifle blazing. Shadow hit him from the side. The big man went down hard, the Malinois on top of him. Ethan finished him with a single shot. Silence fell. Maya's ears rang. Her hands shook. She'd shot someone. She'd actually shot a human being. "Maya." Ethan's voice pulled her back. "How many down?" She counted. 2 at the front door unconscious. 3 more in the cabin dead or wounded. Gage by the back door. 6. There were 8. Plus hail. That's 3 still out there. Glass shattered. Something small flew through the window. "Grenade!" Ethan grabbed Maya, threw her toward the cellar, covered her body with his. The explosion was deafening. Light, heat, pressure. Then nothing. Maya opened her eyes. She couldn't hear. Everything was muffled, distant. Ethan was on top of her, not moving. "Ethan! Ethan!" He groaned, rolled off. Blood was running from his ears. "I'm okay. I'm okay." He wasn't okay. She could see shrapnel wounds in his back, but he was standing, finding his rifle, checking the magazine. "They'll breach now. They think we're done." Maya forced herself up. Her dogs. Where were her dogs? Storm was down, whimpering. The blast had thrown her against the wall. Ghost was crawling toward her, shaking his head, disoriented. Shadow was still standing. The old warrior had weathered worse. The front door filled with shadows. 2 men. And behind them, Victor Hale. "Drop your weapons!" Hale's voice was different now. The politician's mask was gone. Only the monster remained. "Drop them, or I'll kill every dog in this room, then take my time with you." Maya looked at Ethan. His rifle was aimed at Hale. "You can kill one of us," Ethan said. "But not both. Not before I put a bullet in your skull." "Then we all die. I can live with that." "Can you? You came all this way, killed all these people just to die in a cabin in the middle of nowhere?" Hale's eyes flicked to Maya. "Where is it? Where's what? Don't play games with me." His composure cracked. "The drive, I know you have it. I tore apart that van, searched every inch. It wasn't there." Maya laughed. The sound surprised everyone, including herself. "You're right. It wasn't there. It was never there." "Then where? You walked right past it." Maya's voice was cold, steady. "When you shot my dogs and left them to die. The evidence was around Ghost's neck, in his collar. You were so busy looking for hiding places you never thought to check a dog." Hale stared at her, then at Ghost, who was struggling to stand. "You're lying." "Am I?" Ethan shifted his aim slightly. "She's not lying. I saw it. Micro SD card waterproof case sewn into the collar lining. Clever, right? All your tech, all your resources, and you were outsmarted by a dog." Something broke behind Hale's eyes. "Kill them! Kill them all!" The 2 remaining men raised their rifles. Shadow attacked. The old Malinois moved faster than any of them expected. He hit the nearest gunman at full speed, taking him to the ground. Ethan fired. The second man dropped. Maya raised her Glock. Hale was running, out the door, into the snow. "He's getting away! Go! I've got Shadow!" Maya ran after him. The cold hit her like a wall. She was in her tactical vest and a thin shirt, nothing else. Her body screamed at the temperature, but she didn't stop. Hale was heading for the last snowmobile. If he reached it, if he escaped. She fired. Missed. He reached the machine, swung his leg over. "Ghost!" The small shepherd burst through the door. His head wound was bleeding again. He could barely see straight, but he heard his handler's voice. And he responded. Ghost covered the distance in seconds. He launched himself at Hale, just as the man started the engine. Man and dog went down in the snow. Hale screamed. Ghost had his forearm and he wasn't letting go. Maya reached them. She kicked the pistol from Hale's free hand and pressed her Glock to his temple. "Don't move. Get this thing off me. Ghost. Out." The dog released, backed away, still growling. Hale lay in the snow, bleeding from dozens of bite wounds. His eyes were wild with pain and fear. "You can't do this. I'm a police captain. I have connections, people in the governor's office, federal contacts. You have no idea who you're dealing with." "I know exactly who I'm dealing with." Maya pressed the gun harder. "A murderer. A traitor. A man who killed his own officers for money. You have no proof. I have everything. Every transaction, every shipment, every name." She leaned close. "I have Danny Walsh." Hale's face went pale. "That's right. Danny kept copies, backups of everything I showed him, hidden with his lawyer to be opened in the event of his death." She smiled grimly. "You killed him. You triggered his dead man's switch. Even if you killed me right now, even if you destroyed my evidence, Danny's copies would surface in 48 hours. It was a lie. Maya had no idea if Danny had backups. But Hale didn't know that. You're finished, Victor. It's over. Hale stared at her. Then his face twisted into something ugly. Then I have nothing to lose. His hand moved, a hidden knife strapped to his ankle. Maya pulled the trigger. The gun clicked. Empty. Hale lunged. The knife sliced across Maya's arm. She fell back, screaming. He was on top of her now, the knife raised. You ruined everything I had, 12 years, 12 perfect years. The blade came down. Ghost hit him like a missile. 70 pounds of wounded, bleeding, furious German shepherd slammed into Victor Hale's chest. The knife flew from his hand. Dog and man rolled in the snow. Ghost was everywhere. Teeth claws, fury. 12 hours ago, this dog had been shot, left to die, abandoned by the man now screaming beneath him. Dogs don't forget. Storm appeared. She could barely stand, but she added her weight to the attack. Then shadow blood matting his fur. 3 dogs. 1 monster. By the time Maya reached them, Hale wasn't fighting anymore. He was curled in a ball, hands over his face, whimpering. Off, all of you, off. The dogs backed away. They stood in a circle around him, growling, waiting for the command to finish it. Maya picked up the knife. Hale looked at her through swollen, bleeding eyes. Do it, he whispered. Kill me. Prove you're just like me. Maya looked at the knife, at the man who had murdered her partner, who had tried to murder her, who had shot her dogs and left them to die. She wanted to do it. God, she wanted to. Maya, Ethan's voice. He was standing at the cabin door, one arm hanging limp, blood covering half his body. Don't. He deserves it. He does. But you don't. Ethan limped toward her. You're not an executioner, you're a cop. Let the system handle him. The system is corrupt. He owns the system. Not all of it. Ethan pointed to the sky. A new sound, growing louder. Multiple helicopters. Maya looked up. 3 Blackhawks were descending from the clouds. Military. The side doors were open, soldiers visible inside. NCIS, Ethan said. They came fast. The helicopters landed in a storm of snow. Soldiers poured out, taking positions, securing the area. A woman in a dark blue jacket approached. Hard eyes, professional bearing. Commander Cole, you look like hell. Sarah? Ethan almost smiled. You're early. Weather broke faster than expected. We've been circling for 20 minutes waiting for a window. She looked at Maya, then at Hale, bleeding in the snow. This our suspect, Captain Victor Hale, Alaska State Police, attempted murder, conspiracy, trafficking, and the actual murder of Officer Danny Walsh. Sarah nodded to her team. Take him. 2 soldiers hauled Hale to his feet. He was too beaten to resist. This isn't over, he spat at Maya. I have lawyers, friends in high places. You'll never make this stick. Maya stepped close to him. I have 12 years of evidence. I have witnesses. I have federal jurisdiction. She held up the tiny micro SD card she'd been carrying in her pocket. And I have this. She placed it in Sarah Jensen's hand. Every transaction, every shipment, every name, everyone who helped you, everyone you paid off, everyone who looked the other way. Hale's face went gray. Enjoy prison, Captain. Maya smiled. I hear cops do really well there. They dragged him away. Maya stood in the snow, surrounded by soldiers covered in blood, her 3 wounded dogs pressing against her legs. It was over. Ethan appeared beside her. He was barely standing. You okay? No. Maya's voice cracked. I'm not okay. I don't think I'll ever be okay. That's the right answer. She looked at him. At this stranger who had saved her life, who had fought beside her, who had given her a reason to survive. Thank you. For everything. Ethan shook his head. Don't thank me. Thank Shadow. He's the one who heard you in the storm. The old Malinois looked up at the sound of his name. His tail wagged once weakly. Maya knelt and wrapped her arms around him. She felt his heart beating strong and steady. A warrior's heart. Thank you, she whispered into his fur. Thank you. Shadow licked her face. Around them, the aftermath of battle continued. Medics treated the wounded. Soldiers secured evidence. Helicopters waited to evacuate everyone. But for one moment, Maya just held the dog who had saved her life. The storm was over. The monster was caught. And somewhere she knew Danny Walsh was finally at peace. The helicopter blades cut through the frozen air as Maya was loaded onto a stretcher. She didn't want to lie down. She wanted to stay with her dogs. But the medic was insistent. Ma'am, you have a concussion, possible internal bleeding, and that knife wound needs stitches. You're not walking anywhere. My dogs are being transported separately. Military veterinary team is on standby at Elmendorf. They'll get the best care available. Maya finally relented. She lay back as the helicopter lifted off, watching through the window as the cabin shrank below her. Ethan was on a stretcher beside her. He looked worse than she felt, shrapnel wounds across his back and shoulder, a deep gash on his arm, blood loss that had turned his skin pale. You should have stayed in the cellar, he said, his voice weak. You would have died. Maybe, but the evidence would have survived. The evidence isn't worth your life. Ethan laughed, then winced at the pain. You sound like my therapist. You have a therapist. Had. She fired me after I stopped showing up. Despite everything, Maya smiled. Thank you, she said again. I know you said not to thank you, but I don't care. Thank you. Ethan turned his head to look at her. His eyes were tired, but warm. You did good, Sergeant. Danny would be proud. Maya's smile faded. Danny. They need to find his body. His family deserves to know what happened. They will. Hale's going to talk. Men like him always do when they're facing life in prison. What if he doesn't? Then the evidence will speak for him. Ethan closed his eyes. Rest now. The hard part is just beginning. The hospital was chaos. Maya spent 3 days in the intensive care unit at Providence, Alaska Medical Center. Her injuries were worse than she'd realized: 2 cracked ribs, a moderate concussion, the knife wound that required 22 stitches, and frostbite on 3 fingers that nearly required amputation. But she survived. She healed. The dogs were at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson under the care of military veterinarians who specialized in working animals. Maya called every day, sometimes twice. Ranger's leg is healing, the vet told her on day 2. It was touch and go for a while. The bone fragments were extensive, but he's responding well to treatment. He may walk again. May. We're optimistic. He's a fighter. What about Storm and Ghost? Storm's wound is clean, no infection. She'll be mobile within a week. Ghost's concussion has fully resolved. He's been pacing his kennel looking for you. Maya wiped her eyes. Tell him I'm coming. Tell him I'm coming soon. On day 3, Sarah Jensen arrived at Maya's hospital room. The NCIS agent looked different out of tactical gear, professional suit. Neat hair, the kind of composed authority that came from years of navigating federal bureaucracy. How are you feeling? Like I was hit by a truck, then exploded. That's about right. Sarah pulled up a chair. I have news, some good, some complicated. Give me the good first. We found Danny Walsh. Maya's heart stopped. He's He's dead. I knew that. Hale told me, yes, he's dead, but we found his body. His family can have closure now. Sarah's voice softened. He was buried in a shallow grave about 20 miles from where you were ambushed. Hale's men weren't very creative. Maya closed her eyes. Tears ran down her cheeks. Did he suffer? The coroner says it was quick, single gunshot. He probably never saw it coming. Small comfort, but comfort nonetheless. What's the complicated news? Sarah shifted in her chair. The evidence you provided is extraordinary. Names, dates, transactions, it's everything we need to bring down Hale's entire network. But there's a problem. What problem? The scope. Sarah leaned forward. This isn't just a local trafficking operation. The connections go deeper than we expected. Federal judges, state legislators, a congressman. Maya stared at her. How deep? Deep enough that people in Washington are getting nervous. There are conversations happening about containing the investigation. Containing? You mean burying it. I mean there are powerful people who would prefer this story die quietly. Maya sat up, ignoring the pain in her ribs. No, absolutely not. Danny died for this. I almost died for this. My dogs, I know. Sarah held up her hand. I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you because you need to understand what we're fighting. This isn't just about Victor Hale anymore. This is about an entire system that allowed him to operate for 12 years. So what do? We go public. Sarah pulled out a folder. Before they can bury it, the evidence is secure, multiple copies in multiple locations. But we need a face. A story that people can connect with. You want me to testify. I want you to do more than testify. I want you to tell your story. Press conferences, interviews, congressional hearings if it comes to that. Sarah met Maya's eyes. You're not just a witness, Sergeant. You're a symbol. A cop who stood up against corruption and survived. That matters. Maya looked down at her bandaged hands, at the IV line in her arm, at all the damage that one man's greed had caused. I'll do it. You're sure once you go public there's no going back. You'll be a target for the rest of your life. I've already been a target. Maya's voice hardened. At least this time I'll be shooting back. 1 week later, Maya stood before a bank of microphones. The press conference was held in the Federal Building in Anchorage. Behind her stood Sarah Jensen, 2 NCIS agents, and the Assistant U.S. Attorney for Alaska. In the front row sat Ethan Cole, arm in a sling, watching with quiet pride. My name is Maya Reyes. Until 2 weeks ago, I was a sergeant in the Alaska State Police K9 unit. I'm here to tell you about a man I trusted, a partner I lost, and a system that nearly destroyed me. She told them everything. The trafficking operation, the evidence she'd gathered, Danny Walsh's murder, the ambush in the snow, Hale's attempt to kill her and frame her for Danny's disappearance. She told them about 3 dogs who were shot and left to die, about a stranger who saved her life, about fighting for survival in a frozen cabin while a monster tried to silence her forever. When she finished, the room was silent. Then the questions began. Sergeant Reyes, how do you respond to Captain Hale's claims that you fabricated this evidence? Ask him to explain why he left me handcuffed to a steering wheel in a blizzard. Ask him to explain the bullet fragments they pulled out of my dogs. Is it true that federal officials are attempting to limit the scope of this investigation? Yes, and that's why I'm standing here. The truth doesn't die because powerful people find it inconvenient. What do you want people to take away from your story? Maya paused. She thought of Danny, of Ranger Storm and Ghost, of Shadow, who had heard her cry in the storm when no one else could. I want people to know that good still exists, that there are still people willing to sacrifice everything for what's right. My partner Danny Walsh was one of those people. He died trying to expose the truth. I'm alive because of a man who risked his life for a stranger, and because of 4 dogs who never stopped fighting. And she looked directly into the camera. Corruption survives in silence. I refuse to be silent anymore. The response was immediate. Within 24 hours, Maya's press conference had been viewed 17 million times. Justice. For Danny trended nationally. News networks ran wall-to-wall coverage. Politicians who had been planning to bury the investigation suddenly couldn't distance themselves fast enough. The pressure worked. A federal grand jury was convened. Indictments came down like rain. Victor Hale, 6 of his officers, 2 Port Authority officials, a city councilman, and a state legislator. The congressman Sarah had mentioned quietly resigned, citing health reasons. But Hale didn't go down without a fight. 3 days before his trial was scheduled to begin, Maya received a phone call. "Sergeant Reyes, this is Dr. Chen at Joint Base Elmendorf." Maya's blood ran cold. The only reason the vet would call directly the dogs. What happened to the dogs? "They're fine. They're all fine." Dr. Chen's voice was quick to reassure. "But there's been an incident. Someone attempted to access the kennel facility last night." "What?" "Security stopped them before they could reach the animals. But we found materials, poison. Enough to kill all 3 dogs and several others." Maya couldn't breathe. "We've moved Ranger Storm and Ghost to a secure location. Military Guard 24-hour surveillance. They're safe." Who tried to... "We don't know yet. The intruder escaped." "But Maya..." Dr. Chen paused. "This wasn't random. Someone specifically targeted your dogs. Someone who knew exactly where they were." Maya hung up the phone. Her hands were shaking. Ethan found her 10 minutes later pacing her apartment like a caged animal. "I heard. Sarah called me. He tried to kill my dogs, again." Maya's voice was raw with fury. "Even locked in a cell, he's still trying to hurt them." "It wasn't Hale. He's been in solitary confinement since his arrest. No visitors, no phone calls, no contact with anyone outside." "Then who..." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Someone in his network. Someone we haven't caught yet. Someone who's scared of what those dogs represent." "They're dogs. They're not witnesses. They can't testify." "No, but they're symbols. Living proof of what Hale did. Every time someone sees them, they remember. Every news story about your recovery, they show pictures of your dogs. They're more dangerous to Hale's people than any evidence on that drive." Maya sank onto the couch. Shadow, who had been staying with her since her release from the hospital, immediately moved to her side. He pressed his body against her legs, offering comfort the only way he knew how. "I can't lose them. I can't. They're all I have left." "You're not going to lose them." Ethan knelt in front of her. "Sarah's doubling security. The trial starts in 3 days. Once Hale and his people are convicted, the threat disappears. What if it doesn't? What if there are more people we don't know about? Then we find them. We expose them. We do what we've been doing all along." He took her hand. "You're not alone in this, Maya. You never were." She looked at him. At this man who had stumbled into her life by accident and stayed by choice. "Why are you still here? Your leave is over. Your team needs you." "My team is fine." Ethan smiled slightly. "Turns out fighting off a corrupt police captain and his private army counts as active duty. They extended my leave. Medical recovery." "You're not recovering. You're babysitting me." "I prefer the term providing tactical support." His smile faded. "I lost Atlas because I wasn't there to protect him. I'm not making that mistake again." Maya squeezed his hand. You can't protect everyone. No, but I can protect you. The trial began on a Tuesday morning. The federal courthouse in Anchorage was surrounded by media protesters and security personnel. Maya had to be escorted through a side entrance flanked by U.S. Marshals. Ethan walked beside her shadow at his heel. The old Malinois was officially her service dog, now a designation that allowed him to accompany her everywhere, including the courtroom. Nervous. Maya looked at the door ahead of her. Terrified. Good. Use it. Channel it. Easy for you to say. You've probably done this 100 times. Never testified against a corrupt police captain who tried to murder me. Ethan shrugged. First time for everything? The courtroom was packed. Family members of victims, journalists, politicians trying to distance themselves from the scandal. And in the defendant's chair, Victor Hale. He looked smaller than Maya remembered. Prison had diminished him. The charm was gone, replaced by something bitter and desperate. Their eyes met across the room. Maya didn't look away. The prosecution calls Sergeant Maya Reyes. She stood. Shadow stayed in his seat beside Ethan, watching her walk to the witness stand. She could feel his eyes on her, steadying her, reminding her that she wasn't alone. The prosecutor approached. Sergeant Reyes, please describe your relationship with the defendant. Captain Hale was my commanding officer for 8 years. He recruited me into the K9 unit. He was my mentor. And when did that relationship change? Maya took a breath. 3 months ago, when I discovered he was using our transport routes to traffic drugs and weapons. For 2 hours, Maya testified. She described every detail, the evidence she'd gathered, Danny's involvement, the ambush, the shooting, the escape. She spoke clearly, calmly, letting the facts tell the story. Hale's defense attorney tried to rattle her. Isn't it true, Sergeant, that you had a personal grudge against Captain Hale, that he passed you over for promotion 3 times? Captain Hale passed me over because I asked questions he didn't want answered. Isn't it true that you fabricated this evidence to destroy a man who rejected your romantic advances? Maya laughed. The sound echoed through the courtroom. I have 3 wounded dogs who were shot by his men. I have a dead partner buried in a shallow grave. I have 22 stitches from a knife he tried to put in my throat. She leaned forward. Does that sound like a romantic rejection to you? The defense attorney sat down. On the 5th day of the trial, the defense made one final move. Your Honor, we call Commander Ethan Cole to the stand. Maya turned. Ethan was already standing, his face unreadable. This wasn't supposed to happen. Ethan had given his statement to investigators. He wasn't on the witness list. Commander Cole, the defense attorney began. You're a Navy SEAL, correct? Yes. You've served in combat zones around the world? Yes. You've killed people in the line of duty. Objection, relevance, goes to character, Your Honor. Overruled. The witness will answer. Ethan's jaw tightened. Yes. I've killed in the line of duty. And in fact, Commander, isn't it true that you're currently on medical leave due to psychological issues, PTSD, depression? The courtroom murmured. I'm on leave because my K9 partner was killed in action. So you're emotionally unstable. I'm grieving. There's a difference. Commander Cole, I put it to you that you were in a fragile mental state when you allegedly discovered Sergeant Reyes. I put it to you that you projected your own trauma onto this situation, saw threats that weren't there, and that your testimony is colored by your psychological damage. Ethan stared at the attorney. Are you asking me a question or giving a speech? I'm suggesting that nothing you've told this court can be trusted. Ethan leaned forward. His voice was calm, deadly. Let me tell you what I know. I know that when I found Sergeant Reyes, she was handcuffed to her own steering wheel, unconscious, hypothermic, and left to die. I know that her 3 dogs had been shot in the legs, not killed shot. deliberately wounded so they would suffer. I know that Captain Hale came to my cabin with 8 armed men and tried to murder us both." He looked directly at Hale. "I've served my country for 15 years. I've faced enemies who tortured prisoners, who used children as shields, who committed atrocities I can't describe in this courtroom. Victor Hale is worse than any of them, because he swore an oath to protect people, and he betrayed that oath for money." He turned back to the attorney. "My psychological state is irrelevant. The evidence speaks for itself. And if you're done trying to smear a wounded veteran to protect a murderer, I'd like to return to my seat." The defense attorney had nothing else to say. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Maya sat in the hallway shadow at her feet, Ethan beside her. Neither of them spoke. There was nothing left to say. When the bailiff called them back, Maya's legs felt like water. The jury foreman stood. "On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of attempted murder, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of murder in the first degree, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of racketeering." The word rang through the courtroom like a bell. Guilty. 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 17 counts. Guilty on all of them. Hale didn't react. He sat motionless, staring straight ahead as his entire world collapsed around him. Maya felt tears running down her face. She didn't wipe them away. "Danny," she whispered. "We did it. We got him." Beside her, Ethan reached over and took her hand. In the gallery, someone started clapping. Then another person. Then another. The sound grew until it filled the courtroom. Applause for justice, for truth, for a woman who had refused to stay silent. Maya stood. She looked at Victor Hale one last time. He finally turned to face her. His eyes were empty. She felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction, just an exhausted sense of completion. It was over. It was finally over. Outside the courthouse, the media was waiting. Maya walked through the crowd, cameras flashing, questions being shouted. Ethan flanked her on one side, Shadow on the other. "Sergeant Reyes, how do you feel about the verdict?" Maya stopped. She thought about the question, really thought about it. "I feel grateful," she said finally. "Grateful to be alive, grateful for the people who saved me, grateful that justice still means something in this country." "What's next for you?" She looked at Ethan, at Shadow, at the clear blue sky above Anchorage. "Next," she smiled, "I'm going to see my dogs." The drive to Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson took 45 minutes. Maya spent every second of it fighting the urge to make the driver go faster. Her heart pounded against her ribs. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Ethan sat beside her, Shadow between them. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. When the vehicle finally stopped at the veterinary facility, Maya was out before the engine died. "Sergeant Reyes." Dr. Chen met her at the entrance. The veterinarian looked exhausted, but smiled when she saw Maya's face. "They're ready for you. We moved them to the rehabilitation yard this morning." "How are they? See for yourself." Dr. Chen led her through the facility, past kennels filled with military working dogs, past treatment rooms and surgical suites. Maya barely registered any of it. Her entire being was focused on one thing. Then she heard it. Barking. Excited, desperate, joyful barking. Dr. Chen opened a door. 3 German shepherds stood on the other side. Storm saw her first. The tan-collared female let out a cry that sounded almost human and launched herself across the yard. She was limping, her rear leg still bandaged, but nothing could stop her. Maya dropped to her knees as Storm hit her chest, knocking her backward. The dog was everywhere, licking her face, whimpering tail, wagging so hard her entire body shook. "I know, baby. I know. I missed you too." Then Ghost arrived. The smaller shepherd pushed his way in, demanding attention, his nose pressing against Maya's neck. He'd lost weight during his recovery, but his eyes were bright, alert, full of that intelligence she'd always loved. "There's my boy. There's my good boy." And finally, Ranger. The largest of the three moved slowly. His front leg was encased in a rigid brace, and he walked with a pronounced limp. But he walked. He covered the distance step by careful step until he reached Maya. She wrapped her arms around all three of them, burying her face in their fur, sobbing uncontrollably. "I thought I lost you. I thought he took you from me." The dogs pressed closer, surrounding her, protecting her even now. Three wounded warriors who had survived the impossible. Ethan watched from the doorway. Shadow stood beside him, tail wagging slowly, as he observed the reunion. "She's been through hell," Dr. Chen said quietly. "She walked through it and came out the other side." Ethan's voice was soft. "Not many people can do that. Neither can many dogs." The veterinarian gestured to the three shepherds. "We see a lot of trauma cases here. Military dogs who've been through explosions, firefights, things that would break any creature. Most of them recover. But these three, they're different." "Different how? They're not broken. They should be." After what they experienced, shot abandoned left to die in the cold, most dogs would show severe psychological damage, fear responses, aggression, trust issues. Dr. Chen shook her head. "These three, they came out stronger, like the trauma bonded them together instead of breaking them apart. Pack mentality. More than that, they protected each other. Storm was the most mobile, so she kept the others warm. Ghost, even with his head injury, stayed alert for threats. And Ranger," she paused. "Ranger dragged himself in front of the others when my team first approached. He couldn't walk, but he positioned his body between his packmates and perceived danger." Ethan looked at the big shepherd now lying with his head in Maya's lap. "He's a good dog. He's a hero." Dr. Chen smiled. "They all are." Maya stayed with her dogs for 3 hours. She sat on the ground while they surrounded her, taking turns demanding affection, never letting her out of their sight. She checked every wound, every bandage, every scar. She whispered to them, thanking them, apologizing for everything they'd endured. When she finally stood, her legs were stiff, and her voice was hoarse. "I want to take them home." Dr. Chen nodded. "They're cleared for discharge. Storm and Ghost are fully healed. Ranger will need ongoing physical therapy, but he can do that as an outpatient." "What about his leg? Will he ever—" "He'll never run like he used to. The damage was too severe. But he'll walk. He'll live a full, comfortable life." The veterinarian met Maya's eyes. "He just won't be able to work anymore." Maya looked at Ranger. The big shepherd gazed back at her tail, thumping weakly against the ground. "That's okay," she said softly. "He's done enough. He's earned his rest." 2 days later, Maya attended Danny Walsh's funeral. The cemetery was packed. Hundreds of officers from departments across Alaska had come to pay respects. The media was kept at a distance, but their cameras still captured every moment. Maya stood at the graveside, her 3 dogs beside her. The department had tried to exclude them, inappropriate, they said, but she refused to attend without them. "Danny was with me when I found the evidence," she told the commissioner. "He died protecting that evidence. If my dogs can't be there, neither can I." They relented. Danny's mother approached Maya after the ceremony. She was a small woman, gray-haired, with eyes that had seen too much grief. "You're Maya." "Yes, ma'am. My son talked about you, all the time." Mrs. Walsh's voice trembled. "He said you were the best cop he'd ever worked with. He said you were going to change everything." Maya couldn't speak. The guilt was a physical weight pressing on her chest. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. If I had been faster, if I had... No." The old woman took Maya's hands. "Danny made his choice. He knew the risks. He believed in what you were doing. Don't you dare apologize for that. He died because of me. He died because of Victor Hale. And because of you, Hale is going to prison for the rest of his miserable life." Mrs. Walsh squeezed her hands. "My son died a hero. You made sure the world knows that. Thank you." She kissed Maya's cheek and walked away. Maya stood at the grave long after everyone else had left. "I'm going to finish what we started," she whispered. "Every corrupt cop, every dirty politician, every person who looked the other way. I'm going to find them all." She placed her hand on the headstone. "Rest now, partner. I've got it from here." 1 month later, Maya received a visitor at her new office. The office itself was modest, a converted conference room in the Anchorage Federal Building. But the nameplate on the door was anything but modest. Lieutenant Maya Reyes, Director Joint Anti-Corruption Task Force. Sarah Jensen knocked on the open door. "Settling in?" Maya looked up from the stack of files on her desk. "Drowning more like. Do you know how many pending corruption cases were sitting in limbo before Hale was arrested? 47. 47 investigations that were blocked, buried, or lost. That's why they created this task force. That's why they put you in charge. Sometimes I wonder if I'm qualified. You exposed a 12-year criminal conspiracy, survived an assassination attempt, and testified in the biggest corruption trial in Alaska history." Sarah smiled. "You're qualified." Maya leaned back in her chair. At her feet, Storm and Ghost lay on a large dog bed. Ranger was at the window watching the street below with his usual vigilance. "I got a call from the governor's office this morning. Oh, they want me to give a speech, some kind of law enforcement appreciation event. Celebrating heroes, they called it. That sounds like a good thing. The governor was on Hale's payroll." Sarah's expression shifted. "We don't have evidence of that." "Not yet." Maya picked up a file from her desk. "But I've been looking into his campaign finances. There are some interesting discrepancies." "Maya, I'm not going to stop Sarah. Hale wasn't operating in a vacuum. Someone protected him for 12 years. Someone made sure no one asked questions. I'm going to find out who." Sarah studied her for a long moment. "You know this could make powerful enemies." "I've already survived powerful enemies. They shot my dogs and left me to freeze." Maya's voice hardened. "I'm not afraid of politicians in expensive suits. The task force has federal backing, but that can change. If you push too hard, too fast, they might pull your funding. Shut you down. Then I'll find another way." Maya stood. "Danny died for this. Ranger lost his career for this. I'm not stopping until every single person who enabled Hale is held accountable." Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. "You know NCIS will support you. Whatever you need." "I know. Thank you. One more thing." Sarah reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. "This came for you through official channels. Return address is San Diego." Maya took the envelope. Her heart skipped when she recognized the handwriting. "Ethan. He shipped out last week, back to active duty." "I know. Maya paused. "He didn't say goodbye. SEAL operators don't really do goodbyes. They just leave." Sarah headed for the door. "But apparently they do write letters." Maya waited until she was alone to open the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper, handwritten. Maya. I'm not good at this. Writing, I mean. Give me a target and a rifle, I know what to do. Give me a pen and paper, I'm lost. But I needed you to know something. When I found you in that storm, I was ready to give up. Not in a dramatic way, I wasn't going to hurt myself. I was just going to stop living, stop caring. Let the guilt eat me alive until there was nothing left. You changed that. Watching you fight not just for your life, but for justice, for truth, for dogs who couldn't fight for themselves reminded me why I became a SEAL in the first place. To protect people. To stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. You're the strongest person I've ever met. Don't let anyone tell you different. Shadow misses you. He keeps looking for your dogs whenever we stop somewhere new. I think he adopted them as his pack. I think he adopted you too. I don't know when I'll be back. Could be months. Could be years. The missions don't run on a schedule. But I want you to know that somewhere in the world there's a broken-down Navy SEAL and his old dog who are thinking about you, who are proud of you, who believe in what you're doing. Don't let the bastards win, Maya. Keep fighting, and take care of those dogs. They're special, just like their handler. Ethan, P.S. I left something for Ranger with Dr. Chen. I hope it helps. Maya read the letter 3 times. Then she carefully folded it and placed it in her desk drawer. She wiped her eyes, took a breath, and picked up her phone. Dr. Chen, it's Maya Reyes. Ethan said he left something for Ranger. 20 minutes later, she was back at the veterinary facility. Dr. Chen met her with a large box. Commander Cole dropped this off before he deployed. He said Ranger earned it. Maya opened the box. Inside was a custom-built harness. But not just any harness, this was military-grade, designed for dogs with mobility issues. Built-in support for the front leg. Shock-absorbing materials. Adjustable straps that would grow with Ranger as his muscles changed. There was a note attached. Every warrior deserves the right equipment. Give him hell. Maya lifted the harness out. It was perfect. Exactly what Ranger needed. Let's try it on him. Ranger stood still as Maya fitted the harness. She adjusted the straps, checked the support, made sure nothing rubbed or pinched. Okay, boy. Let's see what you can do. Ranger took a step, then another. His limp was still there, but less pronounced. The harness distributed his weight, supported his damaged leg. He took another step. Faster this time. Then he started to walk. Really walk. Maya watched through tears as her dog, her wounded, broken, never-run-again dog, moved across the room with something approaching his old confidence. Ranger turned to look at her. His tail wagged. And then for the first time since the shooting, he barked. A strong, proud bark. The bark of a dog who remembered who he was. Maya dropped to her knees and hugged him. Good boy. Such a good boy. 6 months passed. The task force grew. Cases were opened. Indictments were handed down. 3 more police officers. 2 county officials. A state senator. The governor's office tried to shut them down twice. Maya went to the press both times. Public outcry forced them to back off. She became a symbol. A face of reform. Magazine covers called her the dog cop who took down an empire. News networks requested interviews constantly. She said no to most of them. The work was what mattered, not the fame. But some things changed. Storm was promoted to lead detection dog for the task force. She found more hidden evidence in her first month than the previous unit had found in a year. Ghost became Maya's personal protection dog. He went everywhere with her courtrooms, press conferences, late-night stakeouts. He never left her side. And Ranger surprised everyone. The dog who would never work again was certified as a therapy animal. He visited hospitals, schools, veterans centers. He sat with trauma survivors, with grieving families, with anyone who needed comfort. His presence said what no human could. You can survive this. You can come back from anything. 1 year to the day after the blizzard, Maya received another letter. This one came from a military base in Virginia. The return address was Sarah Jensen's office. Lieutenant Reyes, I'm writing to inform you that Commander Ethan Cole was wounded in action 3 days ago during an operation in a location I cannot disclose. He is stable and expected to make a full recovery. When he regained consciousness, his first words were, "Tell Maya I kept my promise." I thought you should know. Sarah Maya's hands shook as she read the words. Wounded, but alive. Full recovery expected. She thought about writing back, thought about flying to Virginia, thought about 1,000 things she wanted to say. Instead, she went to her dogs. Storm was asleep on her bed. Ghost was watching the door. Ranger was lying by the window, the afternoon sun warming his fur. Maya sat down beside them. "He's okay," she said. "Ethan's okay." The dogs looked at her. They didn't understand the words, but they understood her tone, her relief, her gratitude. Ghost moved closer and put his head in her lap. "I know, boy. I know." She sat there for a long time, surrounded by her pack, thinking about everything that had led to this moment. 1 year ago, she had been left to die in a frozen ravine. Her dogs had been shot. Her partner had been murdered. Her career, her life, everything she believed in, gone. Now she was alive. Her dogs were alive. Hale was in prison. Danny's name had been cleared. And somewhere across the world, the man who had saved her was fighting his own battles and thinking of her. The storm had broken everything. But from the wreckage, something new had grown. A task force that was changing Alaska forever. 3 dogs who had proven that loyalty was stronger than bullets. A woman who had learned that surviving wasn't enough, you had to fight. Maya's phone buzzed. A text from Sarah video call in 10 minutes. Important. She stood brushed dog hair from her uniform and headed to her office. The screen flickered to life. Sarah's face appeared, but she wasn't alone. Behind her, propped up in a hospital bed, was Ethan Cole. He looked terrible. Bandages covered half his face. His arm was in a cast, but his eyes were the same. Steady. Warm. "Hey, Reyes." Maya couldn't speak. Her throat closed up. "Sarah told me you got my letter." He smiled weakly. "Sorry about the dramatic timing." "You idiot!" Her voice cracked. "You absolute idiot! I've been called worse. You nearly died." "Nearly, but not quite." He shifted, wincing at the pain. "How are the dogs?" Maya laughed despite herself. "Shot, nearly killed, and the first thing you ask about is the dogs. The dogs are what matter." She turned her phone so he could see them. Storm Ghost and Ranger were all in frame, watching the screen curiously. "Hey guys." Ethan's voice softened. "Miss me?" Storm's tail wagged. Ghost's ears perked up. Even Ranger lifted his head. "They remember you." Dogs never forget. Ethan coughed a wet, painful sound. "I need you to do something for me." "Name it." "There's a dog here. Military working dog. His handler died in the same operation that got me hurt." He paused. "His name is Titan. Belgian Malinois. 4 years old. They're going to retire him, but he doesn't have anywhere to go." Maya understood immediately. You want me to take him. I want you to save him. Like you saved your dogs. Like I saved Shadow. His eyes met hers through the screen. He's lost Maya, just like I was when I found you. He needs someone who understands. Maya looked at her 3 dogs, at the pack she had built from broken pieces. One more wouldn't hurt. Send me the details. Ethan smiled. I knew you'd say yes. When are you coming home? Few months, maybe more. Rehab takes time. He glanced at Sarah. But when I do, I was thinking about Alaska. Heard it's nice this time of year. Maya's heart lifted. It is. Cold, but nice. Maybe I'll visit, if you'll have me. Commander Cole. Maya smiled. You're always welcome. The call ended. Maya sat back in her chair. Storm moved closer, sensing her emotion. Ghost watched the blank screen. Ranger was already asleep again, dreaming whatever dogs dream about. 3 dogs, soon to be 4. A task force that was changing history. And somewhere in the world, a wounded warrior who was finding his way home. Maya pulled up her files and got back to work. There were cases to solve. Criminals to catch. A system to change. But for the first time in a long time, she felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. The blizzard had buried her. The storm had tried to break her. The monster had left her to die. But Maya Reyes was still standing. Her dogs were still fighting. And the war against corruption was just beginning. She had walked through the darkness and emerged into light. She had lost everything and built something new. She had been left to die and chosen to live. This was not the end of her story. This was the beginning. If this story of survival, loyalty, and justice touched your heart, please subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear a message of hope today. Leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. We read every single one. May you find your own pack in times of darkness. May you find strength when the storm tries to break you. And may you always remember the bond between human and dog is unbreakable. Type Amen if you believe that love conquers all. And remember, even in the coldest blizzard, dawn always comes.